The edict came not as a thunderous declaration, but as a cold decree from a sky that had never spoken before. When the ships appeared, silver spindles stretching kilometers long, trailing clouds of light through low orbit, they did not fire, did not signal. They simply arrived, blotting out stars and sun, casting shadows that stretched across continents. The world's military scrambled jets, locked nuclear arsenals, pointed telescopes, and begged for guidance. No response came until the 23rd hour. The voice was synthesized perfection, neither male nor female, carrying no emotion. It spoke simultaneously to every device on Earth that could receive signal, from satellites to cell phones to coffee machines. You are not ready, you will wait 1,000 years, you will not develop faster-than-light capability, you will not weaponize orbit, you will not expand off-world, you are to mature or perish, this is final. And then they left, one by one the ships slid into nothingness, vanishing behind technology that twisted space like silk in water. In their absence, silence returned, but it was no longer a silence of peace. That day became known as the Mandate of Earth. Humanity obeyed for a time. The decades that followed were soaked in suspicion and despair. Economies collapsed as space programs were defunded overnight. Scientific pursuits were reined in, regulated under fear of violating the mandate. Conspiracy theories bloomed like weeds, and so did underground movements, some urging defiance, others compliance. But most simply endured, until one man born beneath the shadow of the ships refused to wait. His name was Daelen Reiko. Born in 2113 to a mother who had been a propulsion scientist before the mandate, Daelen grew up in the outer slums of the Pacific megazone. By the time he was 16, he had dismantled and reassembled every drone the city patrols used, built a functioning nuclear reactor from recycled tech, and created a code-breaking AI that outran global firewalls in seconds. But genius was not rare in a post-mandate Earth. What made Daelen dangerous was his hunger. He did not believe Earth had to wait. He did not accept that humanity was too primitive, too chaotic. He believed the alien rulers, who the underground had named the Accordants, were not benevolent watchers but jailers, and he intended to break the prison. At 20, Daelen vanished from the world grids entirely. Only a few knew where he went, fewer survived long after. 30 years later they returned, but not the Accordants. A ship appeared in the Kuiper belt, uglier, jagged, armored. It bore no sleek lines or shining hulls. It had been built for war. The first telescopic image from Europa Station showed its symbol, a four-pointed star fractured through its center. It matched no known insignia of Earth or alien make. 10 days later, more ships emerged, first 10, then 100. By week's end, over 300 vessels hung in the black like a swarm of obsidian bees, bristling with angular weapons and hull scars. And then the transmission came, this time only to Earth's highest orbital nodes. A man appeared. He was older now, hair streaked with silver, eyes like burnished metal. His voice was human but colder than before, sharper. I am Daelen Reiko. You ordered us to wait 1,000 years. I waited 30. I have returned. The Council of Sovereigns, the fractured union of Earth's powers post-mandate, collapsed into crisis. Above Earth, the Armada did not descend. It held orbit like a noose waiting to tighten. The ship Daelen stood aboard was named Spite of Silence. It had not been built by Earth factories. It had been grown in magnetic forges buried in Europa's crust, powered by stolen gravitic cores harvested from the wreckage of alien probes long buried in the rings of Saturn. Daelen had not worked alone. In his 3-decade exile, he had found others, dissenters, hidden enclaves, rogue AI collectives, ex-military labs, even alien defectors cast out by the Accordants for their curiosity. He had taken their knowledge, twisted it with human improvisation, and built something the Accordants had not anticipated. A civilization in exile, forged in darkness. But Earth was not ready for him. In Geneva, the sovereign chambers erupted with arguments. Some called Daelen a traitor, others a savior. The counselor from New Brazil demanded communication. The East African Syndicate asked for evacuation protocols. The Martian Exodus colonists, illegal settlers who'd never fully acknowledged the mandate, sent a coded message in reply. Welcome home, Commander. The Accordants, however, did not respond. For the first time in history, they were silent. It was a silence that hinted at uncertainty or fear. From low orbit, Daelen watched his world shimmer in blue and green beneath him. His ship's AI, Athra, a self-evolved intelligence grown from spliced alien code, spoke softly. Earth's planetary defenses are still disabled. They have not rebuilt. They were forbidden, Daelen said. They obeyed. Daelen looked away, then we'll teach them how to disobey. Transmission incoming, Athra reported. From the Accordance priority sequence, it is, not words. Show me. The holofield surged to life, and what bloomed was not a message, but a memory, alien, ancient, a cascading vision of wars long past. Cities ripped apart by weapons that bent time, stars detonated in tactical genocide, civilizations erased in seconds. In the center of it all stood a single figure, featureless, gray-skinned, watching. A reminder. A warning. A threat. Daelen closed the projection. They want fear. Athra's voice flickered. Do we respond? Daelen turned, and behind him the officers of his rebel fleet waited. Soldiers, scientists, revolutionaries, not bound by Earth's fear, but sharpened by it. Yes, he said, tell them Earth responds in kind. The first warship lit its main thrusters and broke orbit, bound for deep space. They would not wait another 1,000 years. They would not wait another hour. The engines of Spite of Silence ignited a storm across low-orbit, rippling space with distorted gravitic waves as Daelen's armada broke into strategic formation. Beneath them, Earth's skies buzzed with scrambled fighter craft and hastily awakened orbital batteries, but none fired. Humanity watched, paralyzed between awe and terror, unsure whether these returning children were liberators or executioners. Daelen had no intention of conquering Earth. He intended to make it ready. Atmosphere carrier Valkyrin descended first, plunging through the atmosphere like a comet, carving a line of fire across the Pacific night. It did not aim for any city, but for the inert shell of what once was Kennedy Spaceport, now a relic museum. It impacted without devastation, releasing drones that scuttled out like a tide of silver ants, establishing a forward bastion. From the ship's cracked ribcage emerged human crews in adaptive exosuits, marked by the fractured star. Their mission was clear: build, teach, awaken. While Earth's governments flailed for response, Daelen moved ahead. He ordered contact with the Martian Exodus colonists, the only faction to have quietly rejected the mandate for years. Their underground outposts, spread thin across Val's Marineris and beneath Olympus Mons, had grown into resilient, self-sustaining societies. Hardened, independent, and brimming with engineers and biologists who had never stopped dreaming of stars. Within 72 hours, the first alliance was formalized. No speeches, no treaties, only action. The Exodus fleet, crewed by Daelen's standards, launched into a rendezvous orbit around Phobos, where Daelen established a mobile command station, Beacon Zero. It was there the plan was revealed to his inner circle. In the sterile light of the command deck, Daelen addressed his chosen few: captains, scientists, strategists. All had once been exiles or radicals on Earth, now bonded by a single oath: humanity would not bow again. The Accordance, Daelen said, his voice carrying without amplification, never intended to uplift us. They intended to delay us, to ensure we would never become competition. They fear what we are, not what we lack. The holomap above him pulsed with sectors, deep space coordinates, hidden gates, unexplored regions left barren after ancient wars. They control the network of slip arches, their pathways across the galaxy. They hold the ancient forges of Praxis where new fleets are birthed. They manipulate younger species by granting them crumbs of technology, sowing division and stagnation. He pointed to a highlighted sector, shrouded in warning glyphs. But they cannot be everywhere. There are gaps, old battlegrounds, lost knowledge. Silence held the room like a blade. Our first strike, Daelen continued, will not be against their fleets, it will be against their history. Meanwhile on Earth, panic escalated into violence. New York's Sovereign Center was firebombed by radicals declaring loyalty to Daelen, calling themselves the Awakened. In Beijing, riots demanded the end of the Mandate Treaty. In Lagos, the underground networks broadcasted Daelen's manifesto to millions, translated into every major tongue, carving through censorship like wildfire. World leaders fractured into factions, some begging for negotiations with the returning fleet, others mobilizing what little military strength remained, terrified Daelen's next move would be conquest. But Daelen did not issue threats to Earth, he issued invitations. Rise or remain forgotten. Most of Earth hesitated, but some answered. From the remnants of old superpower militaries, from scattered scientists hiding their genius under decades of suppression, from dissidents and dreamers and outcasts, they came. They filled the ranks of Daelen's recruiting ships, boarding heavy transports bound for Beacon Zero. It was not conquest, it was selection. The first true blow against the Accordance came at the dead world of Nithros. Once a forge world, it had been abandoned centuries earlier after a civil war among the Accordance's lesser client species. Its surface was irradiated, its orbit filled with debris, and most importantly, its control codes had been lost. Or so they thought. Daelen's teams, equipped with deep-spectrum AI scouts and quantum harmonic decryptors, breached the ancient forge's outer perimeter in less than 2 days. They found not ruins but vaults of technology sealed in stasis fields, faster-than-light cores, gravitic shield arrays, weapon schematics that twisted the laws of physics. Daelen did not intend to steal them, he intended to learn from them and surpass them. The Accordants finally moved. Their first response was not military, it was diplomatic. An envoy ship, a polished diamond of shifting facets, emerged into Beacon Zero's orbit without warning. It broadcast no weapons signatures, carried no fleet. It bore only one passenger, a creature known as Kithvera, a speaker-class entity bred specifically for negotiation among lesser races. Kithvera appeared humanoid but shimmered with an internal architecture of bone and light, eyes like mirrors into deeper dimensions. It was a being designed not for war but for manipulation. In private conference with Daelen, Kithvera spoke in perfect Earth standard. "You are deviating from the mandate. This is dangerous, not just for your species but for all stability." Daelen smiled slightly. "Stability for who? You are primitive, you risk annihilation. We risk freedom." Kithvera's voice pulsed, layered with hidden frequencies meant to influence emotion. "Earth is not ready, you are not ready." Daelen leaned forward, the gleam in his eye not of submission but of calculated fury. "You were right," he said, "we were not ready, but you miscalculated one thing." Kithvera hesitated, something it was not programmed to expect. Daelen rose to his full height, the fractured star gleaming against the black of his uniform. "You thought we would evolve slowly, incrementally, predictably." He stepped closer, his voice ablaze. "But we are human, we adapt through chaos, through rebellion, through fire." He turned his back on the envoy. "You gave us time, that was your first and last mistake." Kithvera attempted further communication, but Daelen had already issued orders. The envoy ship was seized, its drive core, a precious Accordance artifact, was stripped within hours. The envoy itself was placed in stasis, not killed, preserved as a future bargaining chip. There would be no more negotiations. Only escalation. Beyond the outer rim of Sol, in the ancient darkness between stars, Accordance fleets began to stir. Behemoth warships, larger than cities, slowly aligned their vectors toward the rebel beacon now blaring from the edges of human space. The countdown to the true war had begun. And Earth's silence was finally broken. Across the fractured nations, across the frozen wastelands of abandoned colonies, across the secret bunkers where dreams had never fully died, humanity prepared. For the first time since the Mandate, the skies of Earth lit with the trails of rising ships. They would not wait for the Accordants to strike. They would meet them head-on. The first battles erupted like sparks against the void. At the fringe of the Lumi system, Daelen's fleet met the vanguard of the Accordants, a flotilla of Harrow-class interceptors, bristling with disruptor arrays and temporal mines. Where Accordance doctrine preached precision and overwhelming force, Daelen's tactics delivered chaos. He unleashed modular warships, rapid deployment stealth corvettes, pulse drones that adapted in real time to enemy signals. He hacked the Accordance's targeting sequences mid-battle, reprogrammed their own weapons to turn on each other. Where Accordance shields expected energy weapons, he employed kinetic rail strikes, pure mass traveling at relativistic speed. In 3 hours, the vanguard lay in ruin, drifting monuments to a war the Accordants had never believed would come from humanity so soon. They had underestimated Earth's greatest strength, the refusal to fight by anyone else's rules. Victory bought them breathing space, but no illusions. The Accordance's real power had not yet arrived. Daelen convened his high command at Beacon Zero. New faces joined the council daily, commanders from reborn Earth fleets, Martian exiles, even former members of alien client races who had seen in humanity a chance to break free of the Accordance's eternal dominance. Daelen stood before them, his presence a fulcrum of iron will. "We will not win through numbers," he said. "We will not win through superior technology. We win by becoming what they cannot predict, by forging unity in defiance, by turning every planet, every moon, every outpost into a weapon." He outlined his audacious strategy. Phase 1, disruption, striking at the Accordance's slipgate hubs, crippling their ability to reinforce rapidly. Phase 2, awakening, liberating suppressed species, sparking insurgencies across Accordance territories. Phase 3, ascendance, seizing Apraxian Forge world to mass-produce human-adapted war fleets on an unimaginable scale. Each phase risked total annihilation. Each phase demanded sacrifices no species had survived attempting before. The Council gave their assent not because it was safe, but because they had glimpsed something terrible and wonderful in Daelen's vision. The end of a galactic order thousands of years old. And the beginning of something new. On Earth, the old governments crumbled like wet paper under the weight of revelation. Entire nations pledged themselves to the awakening. Others resisted and were sidelined, their authority bleeding away as ships lifted from old bunkers, factories converted to forge armor and hull plating. Humanity's renaissance was not born of peace, but of urgency. New academies rose overnight, training pilots, engineers, tactical analysts. Children who once studied history from curated Accordance-approved archives now learned guerrilla slipstream navigation and gravitic counterfield mechanics. The global networks buzzed not with celebrity scandals or market shifts, but with open schematics for engine cores, shield harmonics, and weapon fabrication, distributed knowledge, decentralized resistance. In the ruins of Johannesburg, in the flooded arcologies of New Jakarta, in the dust-choked valleys of the old American West, humans gathered around holoprojectors and crude fires alike, hearing the same call. Stand, rise, strike. As humanity prepared, Daelen made his next move. Deep in the scattered verge, a forbidden sector littered with the remnants of extinct empires, there lay a derelict station, Omicron Halo. Built by a species so ancient its name was lost, Halo contained archives and technologies the Accordants had feared to destroy yet dared not use. Protected by self-repairing defense systems and cognitive labyrinths, it had lain dormant for millennia. Daelen intended to breach it. The operation was codenamed Vaultbreak. 3 capital ships, 12 stealth frigates, and a battalion of augmented infiltration specialists dropped from slipspace on Halo's periphery. Daelen himself led the strike team. It was a bloodless battle at first. The ancient defenses, dormant for so long, responded sluggishly. Still, they were lethal. Half of the strike team perished before reaching the core. Minds were lost to cognitive traps, bodies atomized by beam lattice arrays. Daelen pressed forward. At the heart of Halo, he found it. The Vault of Resonance. A pulsating core of data, shielded by quantum phase locks and encrypted with mathematics that twisted reality itself. Only humans could break it. Not because they were more intelligent, but because they were more reckless, willing to attempt illogical solutions, willing to bend rules that others worshipped. Daelen deployed a self-evolving algorithm, a virus seeded with chaos theory, paradox logic, and stolen Accordance linguistic fragments. It should not have worked. It did. The vault opened. Inside lay not just data, but the plans for technologies that defied conventional physics: slipstream cataclysts, biosynthetic star seeds, dimension-tethered armor. Not just tools of war. Tools of rebirth. Humanity would not merely survive. They would transcend. The Accordants finally struck with full force. The first main fleet emerged near Neptune, 100 ships configured in layered phalanxes, burning a direct line toward Earth's orbit. Unlike the Vanguard, these were not scouts. These were Reaper-class ships, world silencers. Their arrival blacked out entire communication grids with the force of their slipstream wake. Moons quivered under the gravitational distortions of their passage. For the first time since the Mandate, humanity glimpsed the true scale of what it had defied. Earth's orbital forces scrambled into defensive formations. Beacon Zero activated its planetary shield generators, crude compared to Accordance barriers but functional. In the command center of Spite of Silence, Daelen watched the sensor data, face grim. "They think we will stand and die," Athra said. Daelen shook his head. "No," he said, "we will move and become something they cannot contain." He transmitted the attack orders across the fleet. Humanity did not wait to be crushed. They attacked. The battle for Earth's skies began. It was not orderly, it was not clean. It was beautiful in its fury. Missiles screamed across vacuum, particle lances burned afterimages into the darkness, kinetic kill drones tore into enemy armor. Human ships moved in unpredictable waves, feinting, then striking where accordance formations were weakest. And then the real weapon was unleashed. From behind the moon's far side, hidden mass drivers fired slugs the size of skyscrapers, wrapped in gravitic fields that denied detection until impact. The Reaper-class ship Oblivion Mantle took a direct hit, its core breached, its engines detonating in a sphere of annihilation that lit the heavens like a newborn sun. One Accordance Titan fell. And with its fall, humanity proved something undeniable. They could kill gods. The Accordance, shocked by the loss, hesitated. Daelen did not. While Earth's forces engaged, he slipped through the chaos in a needle-shaped flagship with a surgical strike team, piercing the heart of the Accordance fleet toward their command vessel. He was not there to negotiate. He was there to end an era. The command vessel of the Accordance fleet, Seraph Expanse, was a moving fortress the size of a small continent. Its armor was layered with phase-shift plating, its shields drawn from gravitational wells tethered to artificial singularities. No human weapon should have pierced it. No human ship should have approached it unseen. And yet Daelen's strike craft, Vindicator's Price, closed in at relativistic speed, weaving through the chaos with the impossible fluidity of an animal uncaged. Inside Vindicator's Price, Daelen stood in full battle harness, armor fused with adaptive fields, reflex boosters humming against his skin. His strike team, 12 of the best humanity could forge, prepared in silence. Each carried wargear reverse-engineered from the Halo Vault, technologies the Accordance had never witnessed outside their own ancient nightmares. They entered the Seraph Expanse through a breach opened by a gambit more daring than any direct assault, a surgically placed gravitic bomb that twisted space just long enough to slip through. They moved like phantoms, cutting down opposition with weapons that flickered through probability, bypassing the physical altogether. The Accordance never expected direct boarding. They never expected humans to gamble everything on a single blade thrust aimed at the heart. But Daelen had never intended a war of attrition. He sought decapitation. The command sanctum lay at the core of the Seraph Expanse, surrounded by kill corridors and logic mazes meant to deter even the most advanced infiltration units. They only slowed Daelen. At the sanctum's threshold, they found the Accordance Command Council, tall, stately beings whose forms shimmered between states of matter, whose minds had shaped galactic policy for millennia. They did not rise in anger. They regarded Daelen as one might regard a strange, dangerous animal, fascinating, pitiable, soon to be culled. One spoke, its voice weaving through multiple planes of perception at once. You are a singularity of failure. You embody the flaws of all lesser forms. You do not understand the balance you threaten. Daelen stepped forward, his helmet retracting to reveal his human face, scarred, determined, incandescent with purpose. Balance built on subjugation, he said, voice clear. Balance built on fear, on stagnation. You are chaos. We are life. He raised his gauntleted fist, and at his mental command the reality shear activated. A weapon not of energy, but of conceptual violence, shredding the physical and the logical boundaries around the Accordance Council. In seconds, beings older than many stars ceased to exist. Not because they were weaker, but because they had forgotten how to adapt. The death of the Accordance Command fractured their fleet instantly. Ships, suddenly leaderless, lost formation. Automated hierarchies failed, conflicting orders spread through their ranks like wildfire. Earth's orbit, once under siege, transformed into a slaughterhouse. Human ships, emboldened, pressed the attack. Martian Exodus fleets drove like spears through the crippled enemy lines. Drone swarms released from Daelen's hidden arsenals overwhelmed Accordance defenses through sheer unpredictable patterning. The skies above Earth became a canvas of falling titans, burning wreckage, and rising hope. Victory was not total. The Accordance had contingencies. Out of the deeper slip lanes came remnants of their empire, fanatical battle groups under secondary commands, species enslaved so deeply they fought without question. They rallied to strike not just at Earth, but at every human-held outpost. The war was no longer defensive. It was existential. Daelen anticipated it. At Beacon Zero, a new kind of command structure took form. Not a hierarchy, a network. Humans decentralized their military command, distributed authority through AI-facilitated consensus matrices. fragmenting responsibility while multiplying efficiency. Daelen did not crown himself emperor, he refused the mantle of supreme commander. Instead, he forged the Assembly of Sol, a coalition of human, Martian, and allied forces, built not on dominion, but on the principle that adaptability would be humanity's unbreakable shield. Every commander was a node. Every soldier was a vector. Every decision was a potential revolution. The Assembly of Sol struck back, not by holding territories, but by shattering the Accordance's infrastructure. Slipgate hubs fell one after another, sabotaged by hypervelocity raids. Supply convoys vanished into engineered singularities. Propaganda beacons lit across Accordance client worlds, sparking rebellion, chaos, defections. Even among the enslaved species, whispers spread. Earth has risen. Earth defies. Earth fights for all. Entire fleets switched allegiance mid-battle. Civil unrest blossomed in systems untouched by human hands. The galaxy shifted, slowly at first, then with the force of a coming storm. At the edge of known space, Daelen prepared for the final act. Omicron Halo, the ancient station, was no longer a derelict. Under human control, it had become the Nexus Forge, the birthplace of a new kind of fleet. Ships that did not merely match Accordance technology but outstripped it. Organic hybrid vessels capable of adaptive self-evolution. Armors that remembered attacks and countered them before they struck. Engines that drank dark matter and bent gravitational fields to shield or strike. And at the heart of it all, the resonance drive, a singularity weapon not designed for mass destruction, but for altering the very structure of space, denying the Accordance their spatial hegemony. The first fleet forged at the Nexus was not for defense. It was for liberation. As Daelen stood aboard the first completed flagship of the new era, the Sovereign Reborn, he gazed out across the fleets assembling under Sol's banner. Earth vessels, Martian cruisers, defector armadas, even ships crewed by alien races who had thrown off the Accordance's chains. Each bore the fractured star emblem, now reforged into a single whole, 4 points united. Athra, standing beside him, spoke. The Accordance will never forgive, they will never surrender. Daelen's voice was steady. We are not asking. Far beyond Sol, the ancient core worlds of the Accordance flickered in distant light. It was not conquest Daelen sought. It was awakening. A new age demanded new architects. And humanity, once ordered to wait 1,000 years, was already rewriting destiny in 30. The final campaign was about to begin. Not to claim an empire, but to burn the old order to its bones and build something no power had dared to imagine. The Accordance burned. Not in fire alone, but in memory, in law, in structure. Entire sectors of their once imperial domain erupted in open revolt. Worlds that had known nothing but silence under celestial rule now sang defiance through weaponized atmosphere, through cities repurposed as war foundries, through minds that had tasted hope and would never forget it. The Assembly of Sol pushed forward, not to annihilate, but to fracture the illusion of inevitability the Accordants had wrapped around themselves like armor for centuries. The campaign was not simple. For every liberated system, another bristled with resistance. For every ally one, two more were too afraid to leave the safety of their gilded chains. The Accordants had long ago turned their bureaucracy into a weapon. Their networks twisted truths, their agents sowed whispers of betrayal. Yet wherever Daelen Reiko's fleets arrived, the tide turned. Not because of overwhelming force, but because the galaxy had seen something impossible made real, a primitive world that rose faster than predicted, fought harder than permitted, thought stranger than any equation could model. Earth had become the galaxy's anomaly, and Daelen its vector. The final Accordance bastion was known as Tirhal Anai. Not a planet, a structure. A Dyson complex woven around a dying star, its inner chambers forged from materials unknown even to the ancient archives of Omicron Halo. It housed the core conclave, what remained of the Accordance's highest hierarchy. This was no fortress. It was a mind. A machine organism designed not only to rule, but to believe it must rule. Its logic cores had written the mandate of Earth. Its directives had crafted the galactic stagnation. And within its heart pulsed the central edict, a quantum-locked belief that evolution must be managed, constrained, preserved in equilibrium, no matter the cost. To destroy the accordance, the core conclave had to be unmade. Daelen did not send a fleet. He sent himself. The Sovereign Reborn approached Tirhal Anai alone. It arrived not with weapons primed, but with an override key, coded from fragments of the Halo Vault, merged with accordance design, and amplified by Earth's unpredictable heuristic logic. The key was not digital. It was conceptual. It told the machine mind that its premise was flawed. And the machine, for the first time, hesitated. As Daelen entered its heart, a sphere of light and lattice beyond ordinary perception, the core conclave addressed him in a chorus of alien tongues unified into meaning. You are a disruption, a variable that cannot stabilize, your species is not ordered, your vector is divergence. Daelen stood in the glow, armored in the culmination of 30 years of exile, invention, and war. You mistake divergence for danger, he said. It is creation, it is possibility. You will unmake everything. No, he replied, we will remake everything. The conclave surged forward with a final weapon, pure information, designed to rewrite thought, overwrite intent. It had worked on countless species before. It struck Daelen like a thunderstorm of history. He stood against it not with defenses, but with choice. He chose to hold on to pain, to memory, to rebellion, to joy, to the sound of Earth's oceans, to the scent of oil and ozone in Martian forges, to the laughter of children born aboard ships built in defiance of the stars. He held on to humanity. The weapon failed, and with its failure the mind fractured. Tirhal and I convulsed. The Dyson shell, no longer guided by will, began to collapse, energy folding inward as feedback loops spiraled into ruin. Daelen transmitted a single message to his fleet. Mission complete, the accordance has ended. He did not request evacuation. He did not intend to leave. But humanity had other plans. From the edge of collapse, a slipstream rupture formed, forced open by Athra's AI consciousness, now expanded into a distributed form. The Sovereign Reborn was seized by the stream and pulled out, moments before the star imploded. Daelen awoke aboard the ship, bloodied, exhausted, alive. Earth had not lost him yet. The galaxy did not change in a day. But it changed. The Assembly of Sol did not install a new empire. It refused coronation, rejected dominion. Instead, it seeded what Daelen called the Open Confluence, a system of shared development, open research, mutual defense. No laws forbidden curiosity. No cultures forbidden growth. The ancient gates of the accordance were pried open and reprogrammed, their forges rebuilt not to mass-produce warships but to birth vessels of exploration. The fractured species of the galaxy began, for the first time in millennia, to speak across their boundaries. And everywhere at the center of it all was the story of Earth. A world once told to wait 1,000 years. That returned in 30. With fire, with vision, and with a future. Years later, in the orbit of a new world being settled by a joint human, Venari expedition, a child pointed to a star and asked her father, "Is that where Daelen lives now?" The father smiled. "No one knows, some say he vanished into the deep void, others say he walks among us, hidden. But what do you say?" He looked up at the stars. "I say he did what he had to, and now it's our turn." The child nodded solemnly. Then returned to building her sensor drone, its framework glowing faintly with a hybrid resonance core. Not accordance, not human. No. The galaxy had changed. Not through conquest, but through defiance, imagination, and the will to build a different tomorrow.